In the bustling town of Aba, nestled in eastern Nigeria, lived a woman named Uneka. She had 3 beautiful daughters with her husband, Emeka. Though she loved her girls, there was an emptiness in her heart, a longing for a male child. To her, the absence of a son was a void she couldn't fill, despite the abundance of joy her daughters brought her. A woman without a son, she would often say, is like a pot without water, it cannot quench the thirst. After 9 years of waiting, Ineka's prayers were answered when she gave birth to a boy, whom they named Chuka. She was overjoyed beyond measure, and to her, Chuka was not just a son, he was her legacy, the one to carry her husband's name and inherit the family's wealth. As Chuka grew, Ineka's love for him became overwhelming, blinding her to the responsibilities of motherhood. She saw him as her victory, her key to securing her place in her husband's home. A hen protects her only chick with all her strength, she would often say, shielding Chuka from even the slightest reprimand. Whenever Chuka misbehaved, Ineka would fiercely defend him, scolding anyone, whether it be his teachers, neighbors, or even his father, who tried to correct him. Emeka, a stern but fair man, often warned his wife, "A child not trained by his mother will be raised by the world." But Ineka waved off his concerns. "He is a boy," she would say. "Boys will always be boys." As Chuka grew older, he became a master at manipulating his mother's love. He associated with bad company, returning home with expensive gifts that Ineka eagerly accepted. The more Chuka brought, the more Ineka danced around the house, praising her son for being successful. Emeka, however, refused to touch the gifts, his spirit uneasy. "Where does this boy get all this money?" he would ask, only to be met with a cold silence or, worse, an angry outburst from both his wife and son. Chuka's sisters, too, grew concerned. They had long noticed their brother's descent into trouble and tried to warn their mother. But Ineka's love had turned into blind arrogance. "You are just jealous," she would accuse them, "because he is the one who will inherit your father's wealth." The sisters, hurt and frustrated, decided to wash their hands of the situation, leaving their brother on the path their mother had set him on. As time passed, Chuka's actions grew darker. He joined a notorious gang of armed robbers, stealing from innocent people under the cover of night. Each time he returned home from an operation, he would shower his mother with stolen riches. And Ineka, blind to the source of his wealth, would dance and sing his praises. But fate, as it always does, had its plans. One fateful night, Chuka and his gang embarked on a major robbery. They stormed a wealthy businessman's home. But just as they were making their escape, the police swooped in. A gunfight ensued, but Chuka and his gang were no match for the law. They were arrested and charged with armed robbery. When the trial came, it was swift and unforgiving. Chuka and his 5 accomplices were sentenced to 20 years of hard labor. As the judge banged his gavel, it felt like the weight of the world had crashed onto Uneka's shoulders. For the first time in her life, she saw her son for what he had become, a criminal, shaped by her misguided love. In tears, Uneka pleaded with the court to see her son one last time. The judge, perhaps out of mercy, granted her request. As Chuka was about to be taken to the prison, he asked to speak privately with his mother. Uneka rushed to him, hoping for a tender moment, some final words of love. "Come closer, Mama," Chuka whispered. "I have something important to tell you." Uneka leaned in, her heart racing, tears streaming down her face. But in a flash, before anyone could stop him, Chuka beat her hair, tearing it from her head with his teeth. The courtroom gasped in horror as blood spilled onto the floor. With venom in his eyes, Chuka spat the air onto the ground and screamed, "This is your punishment for leading me astray, for spoiling me with your blind love and ignoring my wrongs. You raised me to be a thief, and now you will live with the shame." Uneka collapsed in pain, her cries echoing through the courtroom as Chuka was dragged away to prison. As she was rushed to the hospital, the weight of her actions became unbearable. The words of her husband haunted her. "The child who is not corrected by his mother will be corrected by the world." From that day onward, Uneka lived with only one heir, a constant reminder of the son she had failed. Her once joyful dances were replaced with silent tears. The villagers whispered of her tragedy. A tale passed from one mouth to another, a story of love gone wrong, of a child ruined by a mother's overindulgence. As Uneka sat alone in her home, she realized that her solid ground had crumbled beneath her feet. Though they loved her, her daughters could not erase the pain of her mistakes. And her son, now rotting away in a prison cell, was beyond redemption. "Spare the rod and spoil the child," Uneka whispered to herself repeatedly. She had shielded her son from discipline, and now, the consequences she had ignored had come crashing down on them both.